Something that I think about a lot is balancing the equation. We have to look at the things that we've added to the world, to the human experience, and determine if we've weighed in for the betterment of humanity or to its detriment. If we determine that we've come up too far in the red, we are responsible for balancing that equation. In the past, I've lashed out at others and actively worked to destroy their worldview. Many of their views on reality were misguided, as many religious and cultish views skew the ability of those raised inside of them to see the world outside. But I can't say that it was a desire to bring them to a better understanding of reality for their own good or for the good of society that drove me to do it. Many of those people were comfortable and even happy in their world, the world that they were raised and taught to believe in. And that in and of itself didn't make them bad people. And the majority really weren't. But they were happy. And that just made me furious. It made me so mad because how dare those people live in the same shitty, violent, and hateful world that I've had to survive in and somehow still be happy about it. So I spent time with them. I learned about their lives and about their beliefs. And I worked to undermine everything that their worldviews were built on. And then I sat back and watched them crumble and fall down in ashes around them. And I felt righteous in doing that. It felt like the right thing to do to me. But in reality, I just really wanted them to be as miserable and hopeless as I was. And deep down, I knew that. I just forced myself not to acknowledge that truth. Of course, eventually I started to look back on those people and the lives I'd altered, and I started to wonder how they turned out. Were they able to use their new worldview to better see what was wrong with the world and how to adjust it to make it better for themselves and for others? Or did they just end up ostracized by those that had formerly welcomed them and left to wander lost and angry like I was? Did I just create a new group of outsiders without any type of long-term support to help them find their way in a world that was suddenly so cold and sharp-edged to them after it had been so welcoming in the past? Nowadays, when I try to explain the problems with a person following a religion or a belief system that restricts their ability to care for and accept others, I have to try and filter that through a past of doing everything wrong, or at least doing it for all the wrong reasons, and having to be willing to be there to better support them where needed if they do veer from a positive course. Truthfully, nowadays, I never get very far with most of them, but sometimes I can at least bring a few others that they seem more receptive to listen to out of the woodwork, and hopefully they'll continue the conversation after I'm gone. It was infinitely easier to just demolish people's worlds than to try and rebuild them a brick at a time to make sure that things don't fall apart. But still, I have to wonder, how much would it take to balance the damage that I've done over the years? How many positive changes would it take to counteract the damage that has had decades to spread out in how others view the world and how they view anyone who approaches them in an attempt to help them better face and deal with the realities around them? Those are the things that I think about when I encountered people who are finally coming out of their bubbles to face the impacts that they've had on others. These are people who are finally beginning to accept responsibility for their actions. The actions that they've taken in their lives that contributed to a culture of racism, homophobia and transphobia, religious intolerance, and general otherings of people who are different from them. And I hear a number expressing exasperation that it seems like no matter how much they do, they're still judged for their past actions. They feel like it will never be enough to satisfy the world at large and to clear the stain of their past deeds. And to those people, I have to ask, why are you trying to change things? If you're only doing it to gain acceptance from the crowd, or because you're afraid of the repercussions to you or those around you of your past deeds coming out, then I have to say that you're really, in my opinion, doing it for the wrong reasons, for very selfish reasons. If all you care about is what's best for you, and you're going along with the current trend of increased empathy without accepting why that's the right thing to do, I do ask that you please still continue to do so. Eventually, you may reach a point of stability, even if you never buy into the reasons for why you're doing the right thing. I just can't help you find your way if that's your only reason for changing. Now, to those who are trying to change things because you're finally willing to take responsibility for the unnecessary pain and confusion that you've either helped create or contributed to, whether you knew that you were doing it or not, I can understand that feeling. And I'll give you the same answer that I've had to come to accept for myself. Look back over all of the things that you've done before now. Now that you can look at them and know what they did to the people that you were impacting. Now that you can accept how and why they were wrong. Think over how they would have impacted those people directly, and then think about how they would have shaped their actions and interactions with others, and so on, and so on, and so on. Everything that we did and do is like a stone dropped in a lake, with the effects rippling out. Or a better example to me would be, think of it like a building being demolished, with all of the debris and the ash and the long-term effects damaging the block of buildings around it. Think about how the loss of that building, the damage to the buildings around it, would impact people's day-to-day activities, their ability to travel, their jobs, their lives, their health, from that one act that can be done in just a few moments. What we're doing now is working to try and create positive ripples to cancel all of those out. We have to not only rebuild what we've helped destroy, but we have to do it in a way that makes the area of destruction better than it used to be, not just reestablishing an outdated status quo. Destructive work of just a few days can take so many years to undo, and our actions have spread across years and decades of the lives of those that we've impacted and those that they've interacted with. And it'll take even longer than that to correct the problems. Doing the right thing doesn't mean that people will praise you for it. People may never forgive us for the things that we've done to hurt them, but it doesn't make it any less important to try to correct the damage that we've done. If humanity is ever going to survive and progress toward a future that is more accepting, more caring, and filled with greater potential than we've ever seen, then we will have to balance the pain and hate that we've spread. We helped further unbalance our world by adding more of those things to it. And now we must constantly work to balance that equation. Of course, those are just a few of my thoughts from an insane bookworm. Please be good to each other and be safe.